Let's see. Believe we? Yep, we're live.
Great. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Tonight we have many exciting things to talk about. So put your seatbelt on, because here we go. We're going to talk about Army of Shadows, not Army of Darkness. Army of Shadows. An uplifting French film.
About children finding their way through life and discovering self-esteem.
Yes. It's all about building self-esteem through misery. Which is kind of true in a way. Let's see. And I'm sure we'll talk about some other shit. Just hang on. Here it comes. It might show up on YouTube 15 different times in 10-minute segments. That's fun too.
I get to send my gun back to Sig.
Oh no, Sig Sauer failure?
It was it's a voluntary upgrade program.
Okay. Are they putting some safety shit on it?
No. Well, maybe. Actually, I don't know. So like, I'm not sure if you heard the reports because like Glock fans were reveling in it, but there was like basically, if you took your Sig P320, racked a bullet in it and like whipped it at the ground like it was a boomerang, apparently it could fire off.
Oh, okay, because that's what you're supposed to do. If you can't throw it at the ground as hard as possible and it doesn't randomly discharge, if you can do that, it's a piece of shit. It's kind of like the same thing if you ram your truck through a house and the airbag. Fucking piece of shit. So anyway, what is Sig Sauer doing for you?
I think they're gonna put a new trigger on it. I haven't sent it in yet, but they put a new trigger on it, and I think they're machining some things on there to keep that from happening or whatever. But I didn't have to send it in. It was just like, well, fuck, if they're gonna give me some new shit for free.
Yeah.
And I think the reason they found out about this is because the Army had selected this as their new pistol. So I think through extensive testing, that came out that was happening or something.
Test that only the Army would do.
Yeah.
Put this thing in a vise with a bullet in it and see what happens.
But their version's like pretty different.
Yeah.
Because they wanted the modular thing where you could change the size of it, especially like grip size, because for like women and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. It's a bit longer. Because I think it holds like 22 rounds. It's like a slightly bigger magazine, and it has a safety on it.
Yeah.
And a few other things. But it's still pretty much the same gun. But yeah, I think some of their like airborne units are already testing it and are integrating it in.
Okay.
So I don't think it's Army wide their pistol yet. It's just. I think they're starting down that way. So,
right from the old M9 Beretta.
Yeah. Oh man, I hear so many bad things about the Beretta.
I have one of those.
Oh, you still have one? I thought you sold it.
I still have that. I have the PF-29 Brigadier or whatever.
Is that like is that the Die Hard one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I have it. It's fine. It's a 9mm. You can shoot. I think the magazine holds 20 rounds. I mean, it's not. It's not like my Kimber or anything, but it's a fine gun. It was a good $400 gun back in 1997.
Well, I know a guy who he does the qualifications in the Marines for he like oversees it, and so like he knows that thing in and out, backwards and forwards, and like knows all the problems with them. It's like, yeah, they work, but there's like a the safeties are kind of weird on them because it's like ambidextrous, and like how you have to like put it away can be kind of weird.
Okay. Yeah, the safety you really can't. You almost could pull the trigger turning the safety on if you. It's best to just hold it in one hand, turn the safety on with the other.
And then some way about it, like they don't necessarily shoot as straight as you'd want them to, but
Okay.
but they work. They're just kind of weird.
Yeah. Gun.
Yeah, but it works. I think one of the main reasons because I think it was the SIG 226, and between that and the SIG 226, and I think it was during testing the Beretta, you could put like something like 200,000 rounds through it before it would malfunction, and that was like the big reason it won the contract.
Yeah.
But also like all their M9s are fucking 20 years old. So.
Yeah, that design has been around. Oh shit, I don't know. Because I remember that was one of the first guns to ever use what they call investment castings.
What's that?
It means the metal it has a certain amount of, I'm not gonna say porosity to it, but it like the lubricants would stay on. They would stick to the metal.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that was a big selling point with it because it would lubricate without getting dirty. If it what the hell else was, I don't know. I mean, it was a durable gun.
Yeah.
It's very easy to operate and understand. With 9mm, virtually no felt recoil because it was a pretty heavy gun, so it was easy to control. I mean, I used it for my shooting classes sometimes because I didn't want to shoot 45 shells. Beretta, fuck this. I'm not doing the FBI fucking range qualification. I'm just showing these people that I'm. Basically, that was to get my permit. So I was basically showing them that, yeah, I know which one end of the gun is dangerous.
And I can't remember if I said what my gun. I have a SIG P320, which is SIG's first striker-fired pistol.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty sure after they got the Army contract, it was like, all right, everyone, you get a free recall.
Free recall to all our customers.
Or voluntary upgrade. It's not a recall. It's like what Toyota does.
Yes. Bring it in. We'll check it over, and you can have a loaner car. Go out and shop with your family while we replace your transmission. We're not actually doing that. Toyota is the reason they changed the recall rules, right?
No.
Oh, yeah, because they were constantly doing that, and they were going, and this was in the 90s, and they were going to JD Power and stuff. And it's like, most reliable vehicles with least reported problems. It's like, well, yeah, you're fucking rebuilding them in the back of the shop and not telling people. And because see, that gets into warranty shit, because a warranty is a contract between you and the automaker saying we guarantee these parts for this long. Well, if you're slapping a new transmission in someone's minivan and not telling them, technically they're entitled to, if that's a new part,
a new warranty.
It wasn't the fact that they were being shady and doing slippery shit. It's like, just give them a new powertrain warranty. Well, then they'd have to admit that they replaced the old one, and we can't. Again, it's Japan, so it's like honesty and stuff like that is like smoke in the wind. We don't share those values. Yeah, I know. I just understand. It's a bunch of guys at Pearl Harbor that agree.
Although Zojirushi rice maker, it's pretty well made and it'll sing to you.
They make great stuff. I have built a lot of models, and most of them are Japanese. But yeah, if you want to be number one, you don't have to have this chicanery that comes with it. And then when you stomp out the competition, when you put your throat or your foot on everyone's throat and stomp out the competition, and then just start selling the same shitty cars that everyone else was. It's like, well, okay, your in game here is not ultimately to improve things, so fuck you. Yeah, I've never had a gun recall before, so. Or at least I've never paid attention to one. I don't think I've ever had one recalled on me.
I don't know. Do you remember any kind of like big gun like recalls at all, or like something like everybody got one and then like they had to like turn it back in or something?
What was the big well, Phil had so many guns. There was always. Even that little micro or that little small Smith & Wesson revolver I had.
Yeah.
When they first introduced that Scadnium frame, that real lightweight frame, the J frame, they the coating on it was just like disintegrating, and he practically got a new gun out of that because it was he called Smith & Wesson, told him about it, and they're like, okay, send it in. And it pretty much looked like a much better gun when it came back, because some of the gun cleaning agents that people would use, there was no advice saying don't use this shit. It just ate the coating off of it. It was something it was because they introduced it, and then they came out with new gun cleaning products, and the new gun cleaning products were eating the coating off of it. So it wasn't really technically their fault, but when you have people that buy a $600 gun and it looks like something that was left in a mud hole for a year, you're gonna get repeat customers out of that. Whether it was their fault or not, it's gonna be a big fuck you. And Smith & Wesson's, they sort of struggle, so they'll do anything because they still make the most awesome revolvers. But matter of fact, I looked at getting a new revolver.
Hey, what are you looking at?
I was a Smith & Wesson, just a big 357 revolver, a big heavy one. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can't tell you the model. I went in the store, looked at it, handled it. It's not a stubby. It's a big J frame. It's a full frame gun for handling 357 rounds. But I shot one before with high powered rounds. I like the way it felt in my hand. I like the control of it. But it's a $900 gun. My kid's got his certificate today, gets his driver's license Monday. I'm going to have a second mortgage and car insurance because now I have 3 cars to insure. So, yeah, I'm not going to be buying any guns anytime soon. I'd buy a big revolver.
I was vaguely interested in watching more gun videos. I was vaguely interested by, I can't remember the one. I think it's either I think it's a Smith & Wesson like TR8 or something like that. It's an 8-round 357 Magnum revolver. It looked kind of neat. I don't know, because like for as big as a cylinder is, it didn't look like unwieldy. It was like, oh, that's interesting. Then the other one is just like a completely like the opposite of. It's like designed the opposite of way you think of revolver. That Chiappa Rhino, where the
barrel's down.
Yeah, it's underneath.
Yeah.
Because the way it recoils, there's less flip on the barrel.
Right. Yeah, they reduce muzzle flip.
Because the what do you call that? It has a lower bore axis. Yes. Instead of firing above your hand, it fires into your hand.
Yes. Also, you have to learn to shoot that gun too.
Yeah.
It's different. I've heard it's a different skill set, a little bit subtly.
Yeah.
But it works. I mean, it's kind of a weird looking thing, but it works.
Yeah, oh yeah. I watched the Hickok 45 video, and he's like, "Isn't this the most ugly gun you've ever seen?"
It looks unwieldy, but when they shoot it, it seems to work well.
Yeah.
So you can also reduce muzzle flip with a compensator, so you can do that too. But this way, you don't lose any of the power. So
yeah. And I kind of the cylinder's kind of neat on it because it's like a square cylinder, but they managed to put six of it in there. So.
Kimber did that with their lightweight 357. Has that squared off cylinder. It holds 6 shots though, and it's as small as my Smith & Wesson.
Huh.
It's 5 and it's a 38. There's something about the revolver I've always liked. Automatics are cool, but revolvers I've always had more luck with those. and they just pack enough power that you're shooting 357s, you're going to stop whatever. If you have good gun control, you're going to stop. And by gun control, I mean control of the firearm. You're going to stop whatever you need to. You don't need to saturate the target with 20 little rounds when one will suffice.
I'll get that Judge 410 shotgun handgun with the weird loads in it, where it's not just bird shot. It's like got like the barrel. Oh, what the fuck is it? Like the drum rounds.
Yeah, the CDF tactical 410, the personal defense.
Yeah.
Rounds, yeah.
Where it has like shit. Where it's like it has almost like a what do you call it? It almost has like a slug, but it's like a barrel. It's like a not like a barrel. It's more like it's like an H, but like with a slug on the end of it.
Yeah,
so
kind of dum-dum. Right?
Yeah, because like then it tumbles weird and destroys things, internal organs and everything.
Yeah, it's a big gun. I've handled one, never shot it. Just flipped that cylinder. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Fucking mess. But it's not. Can't put that in a pouch. Wieldy. Gotta have that one. It's like my Ruger Red Hawk. It's like, that's cool, but it's impractical to carry. Barrel on it.
Put a scope on it. Go bear hunting.
It's got a scope, and you can hunt deer with it if you want to. I don't have the patience to hunt deer. If I could like sit in a chair and deer would come into my field of view, I mean, I like venison and stuff.
What hunting season could you use on that?
There's a pistol season here.
There is a pistol season? Okay.
Everything in Michigan, especially you get up above a certain parallel, you can use high-powered rifles. You can't use them down here. You can use them up where you're not going to kill 20 people if you miss what you're shooting at.
Yeah, I don't even know like that, because I know there's like shotgun season and there's like muzzle loader season and bow season.
Muzzle loader and then pistol. And see, that's how they came up with those contenders, which were just like bolt action rifles kind of chopped down to pistol size, because you got a rifle round but you could say it was a pistol. It didn't go as far, but you got the muzzle velocity and stuff you needed. I don't know, I don't know that much about hunting.
Yeah,
it's not something I'm opposed to, but it's just I've got so much other stuff going on. I just can't imagine. And some of these guys at work, like the vacation that I take to do stuff and relax and all, like they're not taking a day off all year till hunting season starts, and they're taking 2.5 weeks off, just boom boom boom, got to go up to deer camp. It's like their whole year is got to acquire stuff for deer camp, got to get all this hunting gear, and I'm going to be in the UP for 2 weeks or something. It's like that's a big commitment of time, but I'm glad they do it because I don't have to hit the fucking things on the road then, so as many as you want. And I enjoy the meat. It's corn-fed. Someone was talking about deer. It's like they're actually more corn-fed than cows, because all they do is just eat the corn crops.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's why there's so many of them. That's why they weigh 300 pounds and shit now. Because they're supposed to eat like grasses and shit, but just like everything else in America, we make a ready, cheap food source that makes everything obese. It's like, dig in, money. But venison's pretty good, especially when you mix it with pork fat. It's like, oh, this is good. And some of the guys at work just kill so many deer in their family. They'll literally bring you like, hey, I got some venison. Sure, I'll take some, thinking I'm going to get like strips of jerky. And these guys are like, got a cooler, like, here, this is yours. It's like, oh, shit.
So that'd be like almost the reason I would take up hunting, to just like have hundreds of pounds of meat at the ready. I did this with $4,000 worth of gun and ammunition.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys
that,
guys one kind of weapon. They love their bow, they love their muzzle loader.
It's kind of weird when you get into like hunting rifles and shotguns like that, because they're like weirdly expensive.
Yeah.
It's like a tactical shotgun's like $600. You can put 8 rounds in there, but like a hunting shotgun with like because like I guess for hunting you can only have so many rounds. It's like 6 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of limit depending on what you're hunting.
But they're like, it's like $1,500 shotgun. It's like, yeah, it looks nice with the wood and everything. I don't think it's worth $1,500. Or like,
It's got big German stag like colors. Yeah, that's an 870 Wingmaster. That's a duck hunting gun. But yeah, you put stag horns on and a slug barrel, and it'd say it's $1,500.
the ones I find like the weirdly, I mean, I'm pretty because it's basically like two different, but like over unders are like start at like $2,100.
All the European styles where they can.
It's like one's a rifle, one's a shotgun, isn't that how it is? Yeah.
Yeah, they developed those in Europe because of their gun laws. But yeah, those are fine pieces of machinery. I mean, those are luxury guns. Because if you needed a 12 gauge slug and then a 30-06 shooting out the bottom, we can accommodate. Is that like a follow up? I don't understand. Yeah, some of those guns get to be $20,000, $30,000 if you get them like really bejeweled. I've seen those at gun shows. They'll have them like they've got like blued metal, and they'll have them broke apart, those over unders, and it says on the bottom it's like made by F-Talk Germany, a $25,000 shotgun. It's like, whoa, okay, that's. I think in that point though, it's like having a Rolex. It's just you're just trying to impress someone. I don't know if it shoots any better than the $10,000 shotgun. Shotgun, but there it is. It's kind of like, hey, look at my expensive thing.
Don't point that gun at me, sir.
Look at it. Look at it. Not only do I have a disgusting amount of disposable income, but I can kill you. I'm stood on the right hand of God now. Yeah, some people buy shit for weird reasons. I always like the tool guys at work. The guys that like only have the tradespeople, like only have this uber expensive tool. I mean, like shit you. Like most of the guys have Snap-on, because they get money from the company to upgrade their tools as time goes on. It's like a stipend. And some of those guys, are working 100 hours a week, and they'll like buy a $500, ratchet. It's just like, look at this. And so you have those guys, and then you have the guys that are just cheap asses, and they'll go buy shit at Harbor Freight and just keep the tool. You never. And they seem to work on things with an equal level of success. So it's a difference here, but this guy has some really. I mean, like I said, you get the Snap-on guys, you get the Craftsman guys. Craftsman's like the lowest grade of good tools in Snap-on. Then Mac.
No, Stanley's the lowest.
I just buy a Craftsman because they work, and I'm not working on cars for a living. So
yeah.
But yeah, then you have. Because you get Snap-on and Mac, and those guys will argue with each other over who's the best. And then you get the people that just go fucking deep German.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, that's a crazy fucking socket, dude. It's like this socket, you can ratchet like this, or you can turn it with your hand and it will ratchet too. It's like, how much is that? $1,000. What are you using that for? Some of those guys need that though, like the guys that work on the German robots and stuff. It's like, I need a Torx number 15. It's like, they don't make those. Not in America. But they do have them. I need the triple divot point with the hardened tips.
I need the hollow tip ones for the security bolts.
Well, I didn't realize until we have a machine repairman. He's from Northern Ireland. They immigrated here a while back. And I forget which plane it was. I think it was the Stuka. But all our robots in the plant use the same drive gear that was on a World War II German, because all our robots are the Fennec, the German robots.
Yeah.
And the main outdrive, the thing that where the robot makes the big movements with, is the landing gear out of a Stuka dive bomber. The reason they made them that way was if they got shot up, that landing gear was always coming down. It's just that rock solid, a kind of a drive gear. Because he was explaining it all to me because he had one apart, and I was like, okay, that looks really cool. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it's just like a giant worm gear. But he says, yeah, that thing is not going to stop. It'll literally shatter the shaft before it stops. When that thing decides to move, you're not going to stop it. The only thing that will stop it is self-destruction. So that was, but yeah, he's one of those guys that goes deep German, and he also plays the bagpipes. And he told me what some of his bagpipes cost, and I was like, God damn, those are expensive. Fucking, I didn't realize bagpipes were that expensive. I mean, I knew.
Well, I mean, how popular are bagpipes?
Apparently enough that there's grades of them.
Well, what I'm saying is there's not enough people buying it, so they gotta have them be outrageously expensive.
They're expensive though. But he will play at your funeral for what does he charge? $5? Which would actually be kind of cool to have a bagpipe guy at your funeral. Even if you're not Scottish, it's just cool to hear him.
I found something interesting about like when you Marines do a funeral. So they have a couple trumpets.
Okay.
And they have a device that just goes into the trumpet, and it just has a pre-recorded thing.
Oh, so they don't have to really
yes
apps or whatever automatically.
Yeah.
Oh, it's what is that called? A rhythmatic? I've heard of those before. There's a name for them, but yeah. It's just a set of reeds and valves, and it just kind of operates on a sequence. And
no, it's just like a microphone. It's basically just a microphone you put on the end of the trumpet, and it just plays it. It's like a megaphone.
Oh, I thought you were talking about something that changed tune as you changed breath pressure. Are you just talking about straight up playing it out of a speaker?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Which I was surprised by. But they went into a whole history. Like, we got a class about it. And it's like, yeah, this stuff happens at the last moment, and not fucking almost nobody knows how to play a trumpet.
Right. Yeah. Not trumpeters on call.
Yeah.
No trumpet battalion.
Well, there is, but there's a Marine Corps band. But you can't just get them anywhere in a day.
They're not jumping on a plane like special forces to go to a funeral in Nebraska.
Well, it depends on who it is. Sometimes,
yeah, you get like senators and shit.
Because like the dudes in the Marine Corps band, they rank up real fucking quick.
Oh yeah, they're just captains before you know it.
Well, they're enlisted, so they're. But yeah, they're staff sergeants, like in as quick as basically like in 5 years they're staff sergeants, which is like really quick.
What does that pay a year to be a staff sergeant?
Staff sergeant? You can find the pay thing online. They'll show because it's all standard. Because you just get paid by whatever, fucking whatever grade you are. Like everybody gets that same pay. Some jobs get bonuses, but that depends on. So.
I know like staff people. I know some people that are in the National Guard, and but it's like their full time thing.
Yeah.
They must make pretty good money based on the houses they're living in. I mean, the wife always works too, but it's like some of these guys are like they got big fucking houses.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also there's some pretty good benefits, veterans benefits you can use to get some pretty nice houses.
Yeah, because one Grace.
Also, like if their National Guard unit doesn't have like on base housing, they are basically given a stipend to like buy a house outside the base.
But one of Grayson's friends from the football team, his dad does something with the National Guard, and his mom works in the cafeteria at the school, and we gave him a ride home one day. It was like, this is your house? I was like, holy shit, dude, that's a nice house. It's like twice the size of mine. It's like, god damn. I never thought of that as like, having a lot of pay benefits attached to it, but I guess it works. I mean, I don't know all the story. Someone could have won the lottery for all I know.
I mean, it depends what you do. Also, like if you re-up, there's like $20,000 to $40,000 bonuses for.
I don't know
joining
how
up.
long this guy's been in because dad's older than me by like many years, several years. So he's got to be close to retirement or beyond it.
Yeah, so he's probably signed like 5 or 6 contracts.
Yeah, he's got to be in his late 40s. So, but yeah, I was impressed. I was like, that's a nice house.
And there's also like, it's a lot of the military is just like the you guys at your plant, they just threw all their money in their car and girlfriends and don't have anything.
Yeah, a lot of those guys. I like the motorcycle guys. Because I can still talk motorcycles with some of these guys. Some of these guys have like 5 Harley Davidsons, and some of them are from like the 50s and shit. It's like, that's a incredibly expensive bike. Yeah, I know. I just picked it up. So it's like, and then you ask them where they live, and it's like, oh, you live in a 500 square foot shotgun shack over in Wasteland, but you got 5 Harley Davidsons, antique Harley Davidsons.
I also like one of the reasons the guys in the Marine Corps band rank up real quick is that they just meet everybody. Like they're like basically living in Hollywood of like the political spectrum. Because I knew one guy who was on my Facebook and like he just has photos because he was in the Marine Corps band, and it's just like all these famous people he's just taking
hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exposure's good. That makes it nice. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I mentioned Grayson. We did his final road test today with an instructor, so he got a certificate. He gets a driver's license, and they picked it was in Ann Arbor, and they fucking 10:30 test time, kickoff. It was like a fucking nightmare. We literally dealt with things like because in Michigan you have to take the test in your own car, final, and I have to be with him. So it's me. I'm sitting in the back, instructor's in the passenger seat, Grayson's in the driver's seat, and I know this guy's evaluating him, so I'm not doing my usual shtick of like, hey, what the fuck's going on? Yeah, wow, that's great. I'm just trying to be quiet because Grayson can drive around here and in Milan, which is a small town. No, we're going through downtown Ann Arbor. We're going out on the fucking freeways, and people are just being assholes. I mean, because he's waiting to go left. The left turn light comes on. Some lady's over here. Well, she tries to jump out in front of him, and then she nails the horn. And he's like, shit, I'm supposed to go. So he just keeps going. I was like, yeah, just keep going. Just keep driving. And then we're supposed to get on the freeway, and he gets on the wrong freeway because I didn't even understand the guy's instructions, and I was sitting in the back. And then I did, and I didn't want to say anything to Grayson. I was like, I'm not going to distract him, make him nervous. Let him get on the wrong freeway, and we'll figure it out. When some dude in a motorcycle, as he's going to exit, cuts around him on the right, shoots over in front of him 2 lanes. And I said, yep, that's what you're going to deal with, son. There you go, right there. One of the few things I said. And then we're driving down all these country roads and all these weird things. He passed. I mean, bottom line is he passed, and he did a pretty good job. That was bad driving. I would have been frustrated driving in that situation. And I don't know why they thought it's like Ann Arbor. I'm gonna say is roughly 250,000 people in the vicinity. That's just the size of the city. And then you're adding another 100,000 can fit in the fucking stadium. And then you got all the tailgate drunks and everyone else who can't afford the $600 tickets or whatever to go see a U of M game. Well, those people are all out driving around. Liquor stores are practically empty, I'm sure. And yep, there's my son, just driving around in his Fusion. So Monday we get that, which that's going to be a good thing, bad thing, I guess. I don't know. I have a lot of confidence in him. I don't have a lot of confidence in anyone else. So, but yeah, that's what I got to deal with. That's a new tie rod in put on it, and some alignment work done to the front, so it's all ready to go. I just kind of feel old that I have a son that's old enough to drive a car. Cute when he was 9. It's like now I'm just all these adult responsibilities and adult bills. Oh, they won their latest game too, so that's 3 in a row.
That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty excited about that. I think he is too.
Our chat has been activated.
What, are we just now going live?
No, we just got. I was looking over at the stream and I saw what the fuck's going on in our. Well, we don't really have one message from chat. It's it's a couple of Chinese symbols.
Oh, someone's trying. Oh, the audience is trying to interact live.
Yeah.
What do they say? I probably said Ann Arbor, and they immediately are like, "We all live there now."
It says, "Who else thinks capitalism is going to collapse in our lifetimes?"
Appropriate.
Happy face. Maybe we should consider socialism instead. Thinking face.
So I take it whatever bot in China saw the name American Greed Factory and is now throwing Marxist shit out there.
Yeah.
You guys are about.
They understand the collapse of capitalism. That's what their whole podcast is. It's hinged upon. Look at the name.
Yes, they're obviously Maoists. Yeah, that's great. I love the internet and all its weirdness. I got to ride in a Tesla today.
Yeah.
That's that was pretty. It was weird because we were just talking about the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk where he smoked weed and share price went down. It's considered wildly controversial that he did that, even though it's completely legal to do that. Okay. And if you're going to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, you know weed is going to be a part of it. That's what, it's not even. It's called the experience, right? So that's even when Alex Jones was on there, he would sample the weed to see how strong it was.
We need some more bone meal in this weed.
Yeah. More of my super enhanced laboratory stuff. But anyway, yeah, I was in a Tesla S, the top of the range one. And we were looking at houses. Our real estate guy had one, of course. And we were looking at houses, and I was like, yeah, you got to kick this thing in the ass. I hear 3 seconds, 0 to 60. We're talking like acceleration you'd get out of a 911 Carrara. So, yeah, we did that, and it was pretty impressive. I mean, that car is incredibly fast. It's not very comfortable to sit in. I kept whacking my head on the door getting out. It has a giant computer screen, controls everything. Like, it's like this big. It's like a little TV set.
Did you put it in the ludicrous mode like they did on Silicon Valley?
No, I didn't. I wasn't. We were talking numbers and houses. I was trying to stick with that. I didn't want to get too distracted by the exotic battery car. But there it was. But yeah, it is cool. It's not something I'd be interested in. If it was like as much as my car, I'd probably have one just because it's neat. But no, it's like a 6-figure car. That's a great idea, but I don't. You know, if I had that kind of money to spend on a car, that wouldn't be the car. But you know, it's cool. It does a lot of neat stuff. I mean, it does everything that modern cars do, but it's just, you know how like mom and dad's car has like all the lane departure warnings and the cameras that watch everything and tell you if stuff's coming and what's funny and all that. This does that, but it's a more extreme version of that. Like, it's got cameras pointing every direction, and it tells you like if you're near a curb, and if you're, it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. You're just doing an enhanced version of what everything else in the auto industry is, and of course it's battery powered. But you know, he was showing me on his map like if he wanted to go to, you know, the Mackinac Bridge or sort of way up in like 8 hours up into northern Michigan, how many times he'd have to stop at a what they call a supercharger station, which they have those all over Michigan. It's like 20 minutes to charge up and then finish your journey. And well, it's not charging it up. Just
it's like a fast charge.
Yeah. You do the full charge at night. You're not paying for gas and stuff. Again, if it was within a human price range, it's not something. I mean, all the auto companies would make something like that if it was like in the $30,000 to $50,000 range. But when you're 6 figures plus, you've eliminated 85-90% of your market. Like, that's fucking nuts. So it's a cool thing. 10 years will be there. That'll be a lot more common in 10 years, or it'll just completely disappear. One of the two.
Did that one have the auto? Don't they have an auto driving mode on those new ones?
I didn't ask about it.
Okay.
I was concerned.
Or is that something they're just testing?
I don't know. This was top of the range.
Okay.
Whatever the less is, it was the nicest one.
Because I thought they like all new models of those had like an auto drive mode on them, but you can't like. There's like a legality to using it.
Yeah, I'm sure in Michigan, with our insurance companies dominating every aspect of our life, it's probably off the books here that you do that. But it's I mean, it was cool. I'm not going to shit on it and say that was the worst car ever made. Fuck that guy. But it's also, if that was a $30,000 car, I'd be like, oh fuck, I better start looking for another car. This thing's going to replace everything we're making. But when you look at the price, it's like, no, we're not even close. Is there something you would want to talk about for like 10 minutes by yourself? I'm gonna check something out real quick.
All right.
Did you do that? I'll be right back.
Now I'll attempt to carry the show by myself. So last week I talked about Pay Money Wubby, who is a Twitch streamer but also a YouTuber. And so I was saying on here how I like him because he's different from other YouTubers because he has like more dour and not as like hyped. You know, he's not just have a bunch of fake enthusiasm, yell all the time, which seems to be what the most popular YouTubers do. So I actually got to see him on his Twitch stream, which is probably his main course of what he does. He does YouTube videos occasionally, but he's usually those take longer to come out because he edits them and kind of writes them and edits them together, which takes a longer time. And his Twitch stream is basically him playing some video. Because Twitch, if you don't know what Twitch is, it's like YouTube, but you play video games. And you don't have to. That's just mostly what they do. In fact, one of the most popular streamers on Twitch, she is a cosplay model who does ASMR streams. I can't remember what ASMR means, but basically it's audio stimulation, something. Basically, they make weird noises, like they'll get like Play-Doh and like squish it between their fingers, and then like that gives somebody a boner or something. It's super weird. So yeah, I actually got to he broadcasts like 4 times a week. And he does Twitch streams, and a lot of his streams are like, 4 to 5 hours. But shall I catch you up on what I'm talking about?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I'm talking about Pay Money Wubby.
Oh, is this the video game guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was talking about I was talking about the video he put up on YouTube, and I got copyright strike and all that stuff. But I actually got to experience his Twitch stream, which is like his main course of stuff. And there he is, just kind of a standard, like over energetic and yelling. I was like, oh man, I wanted more from him. He's just like all the other fucking. But I don't know. He's still enjoyable. The weird thing about Twitch, there's a lot of interruptions. So the way he has, you can subscribe to people's channels, which basically means like it's almost like a Patreon. So it's like, here's $5, I'm subscribed to your channel. You will not see ads during the stream. You also get some other features like, I don't know, some content stuff or like ability to message them or something like that. There's different stuff like that. He also has it set up where you can just like give him money, and then that'll allow you to like put text on screen, and then you can have like a robot voice read your text.
Okay, to everyone, or
yes, it'll just like interrupt the show. It's like, well, you paid the money, now interrupt the show with this text as the robot lady or robot man reads the text. And there's a fucking weird thing they're doing now where like they'll give them like $3 or $5 or something. The message will start reading and it's like, thanks Wubby, really love your stuff. And then it'll just start to drone on into a run-on sentence about how like Japan has never acknowledged the rape of Nanking.
Okay.
And it'll like start giving more details and it'll just like keep happening throughout the show. And I have no idea what the fuck that's about.
Sounds very internet to me. Very, very random.
You can also like, I think for $5 you can just interrupt the show and start playing a song.
Okay.
And like he has the ability to stop it if he thinks it's bullshit. But usually he'll let it play because like, oh fuck, you gave him money.
Do whatever you want.
And then I think at like 20, if you just throw $20 his way, you can just play a video from YouTube on there.
Okay.
So yeah, these 5-hour streams. I think for the last stream I watched where he found out somebody basically his YouTube video that got taken down and then got put back up. Somebody else basically did the same version of it and used the exact same title. And he wasn't mad that the guy did basically the same content as his, but it was the fact that he didn't necessarily do anything different.
Yeah.
And what he really didn't like is that he used the exact same title as his.
Oh. Yeah.
And the guy's like, and that guy's that guy has like 10 times as many subscribers as him. Like he's got like 100,000, like 150,000 subscribers. That dude has 1.5 million, and all his videos are shit.
That would be maddening.
Yeah. So like he spent like 3 hours essentially trying to vocalize what is going on in his head while he's constantly being interrupted by the chat.
That's how schizophrenia starts.
Yeah. Also during his Twitch streams, he wears a green screen suit. You can see his face, but he's basically just a floating head while he plays a video game.
That's an interesting addition to the game.
And he has different things that he does where like he has like a close-up camera, like he'll hit a button or whatever and it'll like cut to a close-up and it'll kind of like stare into the camera, and then usually there's a picture of Jesus behind him.
This is a weird vision of our civilization now, it sounds like.
And then also he has like these tiny hands that he'll like put on his fingers, and then so he just has his floating head and these tiny hands that are like floating around. Yeah. So I don't know. Despite it being a little too internet-y, it's still kind of enjoyable. That's why I watch now I appreciate Giant Bomb even more because they just don't even pay attention to their chat.
Yeah.
unless they request. It's like, hey, chat, give us the answers, and they'll do it. They're not adhering to the fucking constant bullshit.
What was it? Remember the eclipse last summer?
Yeah.
NASA had like a live stream, like they had one of those super cameras that could show you exactly what was happening, and you could look at it, and they had a live chat on the right side, and it was. I don't know what they thought people were gonna do, but it was just this constant stream of racism, Trump stuff. People would make, you know how people make those pictures out of the symbols?
Yeah, like ASCII graphics.
Yeah, but they were doing like big swastikas and talking about NASA was founded by Nazis, and this is the culmination of the Reich is this eclipse, like just bizarre. And this stuff was going by so fast you couldn't read it all. And it's like, wonder if this is what the nerds at NASA had in mind. You'd like people to comment on this eclipse, and that's like, no, it's just insanity, and Trump and the Nazis and everything else, and some of it was written in really weird broken English, so you knew it was like, oh, these are just foreigners tagging in on this too, and they have no clue what's going on,
or some sort of propaganda bot they built.
Something. Some of it was just so strange. It's like, that's not even funny or infuriating, it's just weird. But yeah, so that's the world right now, or at least the 2% of people that would bother to go on a NASA chat and not talk about the solar.
Let's crash the NASA chat.
Yeah, let's get on there and talk about Hitler and God and everything else.
I had a bad game of Halo, and now I want to go make fun of black people and homosexuals on a NASA Eclipse chat room.
A little confused about myself and where I am and what I am, so I'm gonna just berate everyone.
I have an audience all to myself.
Yeah,
They have to react to me. I'm saying so many terrible things.
people are my friends. Yeah, that sounds big. Grayson will occasionally show me stuff like that. Like he'll be watching something, usually like history related on YouTube, and he'll be like, "Dad, look at this comment." It's like completely unrelated to something. I don't know. There's always weirdness on there. But it'll be some complete unrelated vile thing that somebody said. Either about some singer or dancer or whatever. Anyway, I finally finished out rounded out the Americans. Saw the last season of that on Amazon.
What year did they end up in?
87, 88,
Okay.
somewhere in that time period. There was a lot of time jumps in that. Because, like, what happened between... Because season 5 and season 6, like, Philip quit being a KGB agent entirely.
Huh.
He just ran the travel agency, and so it was all falling on Elizabeth to do, whatever horrible stuff they had to do. And she was starting to break down by the end of it, and this had a... I mean, I know I've read too much about the Cold War when, like, right at the first thing in season 6, Elizabeth goes down to Mexico, and she's talking to this general in the strategic rocket forces, and he's saying, yeah, we've developed this new system called the Dead Hand. It's actually called Perimeter, but it's like, we need you to steal these lithium sensing triggers that can detect nuclear explosions very quickly, so they could launch all their missiles as soon as they detected a detonation. And that's what, she's supposed to break into some lab in the U.S. and do... Well, she tries to coerce some colonel into doing it, and she ends up shooting him in the face. Either he was trying to kill himself or she pulled the trigger. It's never very clear, because they got their daughter Paige is doing this stuff now too. Well, she's helping her spy. She's not involved in the killing and stuff. And her mom's really being very vague and not revealing things about... She thinks it's just like breaking into buildings and stealing stuff. She doesn't know about all the sex and murder, and won't tell her about it either. Not at first. But
Does she know she's helping the Russians, or does she think she's like an American spy?
You always knew she was helping the Russians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they always told her, because they've said a few... Because she's... Oh, who's the older lady? Because the one controller's back. Oh.
Is it Margot Martindale, or is it the other one?
Yeah, Margot Martindale's Claudia is back. Okay. And because she took a back seat to the other guy, Frank Langella or whatever.
Yeah.
They didn't trust her anymore, so they went to him, and now she's back in season 6, and she talks to Paige a lot, and they watch Russian movies, and she talks about Russian culture, but only in her apartment, because she's in college now.
Oh, okay.
And then their son, what was his name, Henry or what? He's at some private school. But see, Philip's going bankrupt trying to pay for his private school, because he's just running a travel agency now, and it's not going very well. There's all kinds of financial pressure on him too, which they didn't have to deal with before. And of course he's trying to be a businessman. But I don't know. I mean, in the end, like we'll just wrap it up, because I mean, it's always a great show. There's a lot of crazy shit happening, but in the end, like, they get the Russian Orthodox priest that they had used as a contact. The FBI runs him down and catches him, and their neighbor Stan is getting suspicious about him, because it's like, why do they always seem to go away and then something bad happens to us? Because they caught one of the, or they were going to catch one of the other people that's like them, the people that supposedly lived here all their lives and stuff. And so they had to go to Chicago and try to save him, and it ended in a terrible shootout and his death. And then Philip was cutting a woman's head and hands off in a parking garage in Chicago because they didn't want her to be identified. She was already dead, but they didn't want her to be identified, so they couldn't move her body. They didn't have enough time, so he just chopped her hands and head off with an axe. And actually showed it too. So it's kind of weird. And then at that point, they just kind of look at each other, and you can tell they're both like, "Fuck this, this is not working." But so Stan has already talked to the FBI. He's like, "I think these people are these illegals we've been looking for." And so then they run down the Russian Orthodox priest and arrest him, and they're interrogating him. And they also have the other guy too, the guy who was the KGB agent in the first 3 seasons, the resident of America. That he came back because apparently there's some kind of coup going on against Gorbachev, and whatever part of the KGB that Jennings worked for, they want to overthrow Gorbachev, and so they're trying to make them gather information and change their stories and do things to help assassinate the people around Gorbachev that are negotiating on the START treaty. And she refuses to do that and actually starts killing the other KGB people that are trying to assassinate the Gorbachev people. And so, you know, it gets really deep and weird. But then once they find this priest, he gives them descriptions of, because he's met both of them, and he gives them prescriptions or descriptions, and Stan looks at him. It's like, yeah, these are my neighbors. So they have to run, and they know that, and they have to leave their son, just abandon him at the private school he's at. Their daughter, because Stan finds him in the parking lot when they're trying to get the daughter out, and he pulls his gun out, and you know, he's really upset. He's like, you know, you've lied to me for years. You've made me look like a fool. And you think he's actually going to shoot him. It gets pretty intense because, you know, they're always trying to lie to him and tell him shit and move around, but he knows it's like, if you fucking move one more time, I'm just going to start shooting you. So they just stop, and they finally talk him down, because he has some information that was supposed to be passed to Gorbachev about this coup that he intercepted, that they were sending to Gorbachev, and they tell him, it's like, you got to send that, or we're gonna end up in World War III. And so it's and then Paige confesses to, like, yeah, I know who my parents are. I've been working for him for years, but Henry doesn't know. So they tell him, it's like, would you please take care of Henry for us, because we can't take him to Russia. He doesn't know about any of this, and he would never live there, or he wouldn't make it there, or whatever. So then they're all escaping, and then one of the last scenes in the show, they call Henry, and they say, we can't tell him what's going on, but they try to have a normal conversation, and it's just really weird and sad, because Henry's like, okay, Dad, I gotta go, bye, you know, I don't have time. Like, this is the last time I'm ever going to talk to him. And then they get on this train to they have this meal at McDonald's, and there's this family sitting in there that looks very similar to them, and they're just laughing and carrying on, and then they get on this train to go to Canada, and when they come to the immigration control checkpoint, you know, they all have their fake IDs, but the FBI has pictures of them, so they have their IDs, and he looks at him and he looks at her, and they build some tension with that, and then they, of course, people just let them go. So the train starts to move, and then you see their daughter standing outside of it on the American side. She didn't even tell him she's got off the train, because she's not going to go with them either. So then they're playing the YouTube song "With or Without Me," "With or Without You," while this is going on, because it's all '80s soundtrack and everything mix in with this, and so then they end up going to Russia, and they're, you know, it's like it kind of shows it's like a shitty place. America for 25 years or something, and they go to Russia, and of course now they're speaking Russian all the time, which is sort of jarring because you almost never saw that. And in the end, they're like in front of the Moscow University, and she's like, well, we'll get used to this, you know, we'll adapt to life here. And then, you know, like in 3 years, it's all gone. It's just, the whole thing just disintegrates. So it's kind of a really sad ending, but it's sort of good too because ultimately, you always like these characters because you saw their lives from multiple dimensions, but they're ultimately just evil people. Killed ridiculous amounts of people and lied to people and driven people to suicide and everything else, and they're spies for a foreign government. So, but it was a good ending. It was kind of what you expected. And it's like the creator, what was the guy who ran that show? Weisberg? Because a lot of people, because this was on TV months ago when I missed it, because I on my DVR didn't pick it up or whatever, so I was just watching it. And people were like, well, what happened to Paige? Because you see her, she goes back to the lady's apartment in America who is their controller. Of course, the place is just empty. And she's just sitting there drinking vodka, so you don't know what's going to happen with her. And Stan essentially adopts their son or ends up taking care of him. He's like 15 or 16. And then, they also tell him that they don't know. They say one of the last things they say to Stan is like, we think your girlfriend might be one of us. We don't know. But it's very suspicious. She seems like a suspicious person to us, like someone who might be a Soviet agent. So he's left with that doubt too. So they just leave nothing but doubt and deception in their way. But the creator of the show said, it's like, what happens to him after this? He's like, well, we don't know. This is the story we told is what you see. Everything after that is up to you because we're not gonna like revisit this or redo this. But yeah, it was kind of cool. And then I watched some of the production stuff on that show. I didn't realize how much of that show was green screen.
Huh? Oh yeah.
To make it look like the 80s, because that McDonald's they filmed in, they had that scene broken down, and because they actually found an 80s style McDonald's, they just had to redress it a little bit, and of course McDonald's was willing to help them because it's like free promotion. But yeah, the whole outside of it and parts of the inside, you saw the green and blue things over stuff because it's like they don't have like what was the thing they had to green screen? Oh yeah, the menu. Because now we just walk in, it's like a computer screen where everything changes and moves around and shit. It's like they didn't have menus like that in the 80s. They had the ones where they put the letters on one at a time, and it was probably some guy's job. But yeah, so that was I was surprised at how much of that show was green screen. I just didn't really think of like, because they would show the before and after, like, well, this is where we're shooting, and this is in somewhere, because a lot of it was shot in where'd they shoot it at? Baltimore,
okay,
New York, and but different places like that. But they showed like, because it's really hard to shoot in DC.
Yeah.
And because they just don't want people walking around there with equipment. Like, what the fuck are you doing? What bomb are you setting up? Especially something about spies. But they were showing like parts of Washington where they did shoot, and it's like, you know, I grew up in the 80s, and I remember I just, you don't think about the changes, but it's like, yeah, those antenna towers weren't there. That shit didn't look like that. It's like the 80s looked a lot more like the 50s than the 80s looked like the 2000s. They showed all the stuff that they had to change to make it look 80s. And I guess there's still a lot of anachronisms in the show, but they're real subtle. It was just like some technology like that wouldn't be widely available at that time or whatever, but that's all just nitpicky. That's like that Stranger Things, people always like, well, that wasn't there then and that didn't happen then. It's like, oh, get a life. Maybe it did, because this is all made up.
We're employing the 80s that you remember in your head, where there was no chronological order. It just all exists at the same time.
Yeah, this was the stuff. But yeah, it was a good end to a great show.
Yeah, I'll have to catch up on it.
I think they told all the story they could tell, though. It kind of They didn't go on for like, we're going to try to get 4 years out of this.
Let's have him be in a coma, and then every season afterwards going to be a themed season.
Yeah. And then we're going to have a song and dance act just randomly where everyone breaks into song. They didn't do any of that shit. Yeah, the woman who plays Elizabeth, she's a really good actress.
Carrie Russell?
Yeah. I didn't realize that her and the star of this show are like couple
Oh,
in real life. Yeah,
well, that works out.
'cause she's an American actress and he's from England or something.
Yeah.
But
Good old Felicity.
yeah, that's right. That's where she was from.
That was where J.J. Abrams got to start.
Oh, okay.
That's why she was in. She gets her like head blown. Well, I guess not blown up, but she has the bomb inside her head in Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then see who's my
That was the fate of her character.
really happened to her.
She
I-
became an American spy and got her head blown up.
Yeah, the guy I really liked was the Noah Emmerich, the FBI agent,
Yeah.
because he really kind of nailed that role. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, they fooled him the whole time." It's like they fucking fooled everyone, and he figured it out. And, well, I mean, I don't know if they wrote that in to save his character, because if it came out that it's like his neighbors were these people and he hadn't said anything, he probably would have been interrogated, lost his job. But he's a good actor.
Yeah.
I don't recall what else he's been in. I know he was in Super 8. He played the evil colonel. But I can't remember what Matthew Rhys has done besides this. And I know he was in that weird movie that I like with Anthony Hopkins. This one.
Might
Titus.
is no matter, man. If they did,
Titus.
they would
Yeah.
not mind.
He played one of the minor characters. I just recognized him when I was watching it once. But,
Yeah. Does the showrunner, does he have a show coming up next?
no, I didn't check.
Because I know, like, I think the guy who does Mr. Robot, he's got that new show on Amazon with Julia Roberts that looks intriguing, even though it's just a shot of her talking to no one. It's like, okay, this has to be good as Julia Roberts and that dude.
Joe Weisberg actually was a CIA.
Huh.
I don't know what he did. Then you'll never find out.
That was something I learned from the new Jack Ryan show, is that he said that they're not CIA agents, they're CIA officers. That's something that Hollywood always gets wrong.
Yeah, this says CIA officer on his bio.
Okay.
So they did get that right. No, I don't know what he has coming up. He worked on Falling Skies.
Okay.
And this is all it says. And he wrote some books. And his dad was a civil rights lawyer.
Huh.
From the 60s. So. And it's a great show.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I've read too much about the Cold War, because they'll talk about something like as soon as, like, most people probably thought, oh, that thing that colonel wants in Mexico, that's all fiction. It's like, no, that's all absolutely real. That was a real thing. They just called it the dead hand because I think it would be, it immediately
More
says,
recognizable.
yeah, because if they started talking about perimeter and Osnost and whatever the other thing was, it's like everyone would be like, what the fuck? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a game that like centers around that seems kind of interesting, but I hear like the actual gameplay in it isn't that good. Phantom Doctrine,
Okay.
which is 80s Cold War espionage. It's sort of like XCOM. That's how the gameplay works, but there's some milieu stuff around it. You know, like there's like mini games. You know, we have the tack board with like the red lines that you have, like, you know, all these things going from different people's faces to like documents and all that stuff. So you actually like construct the conspiracy like on one of those boards like throughout the game.
Okay.
So I haven't played it yet. I think it was like $40. I'm like, that's a little bit too pricey for what I hear is mostly gameplay's all right, but mostly what makes the game is the atmosphere, not necessarily the game itself. So
Oh, okay. Just cool story. kind of clunky mechanics, huh?
Yeah. I also picked up the digital version of Twilight Struggle, but I haven't played it yet.
Oh, I didn't know there was a digital version of that.
Yeah.
Check that out.
I mean, it's just the game you would play otherwise, it just in digital form.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, select the cards. It's like the game board, but just in digital form.
Oh, it's an interesting game.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about history, even things you didn't know, and then learn about how they actually implemented things. Like, how can we twist this to our advantage? So we have the new Amazon. Stay on theme here. The new Amazon series, Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Which was
Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, which I imagine they had to license that from Ubisoft.
probably.
Because Ubisoft actually bought the name Tom Clancy's, '*S, Tom Clancy's. They own his name, *S. And they can put it on whatever they want because they give him like $50 million to do that.
That usually gets you a lot of... yeah, that's a good payday for you. It's like, yeah, you can put my apostrophe name on things.
But yeah, this is Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, which is like, I guess almost every Jack Ryan thing is a reboot of Jack Ryan. I mean, there's you got your 2 Harrison Ford movies, but then everything else has always been a new Jack Ryan.
Yep. So we had Alec Baldwin, he was like the Leesenby of the.
Well, I don't like. I was thinking about the other day. It's like he was a good Jack Ryan, or I guess like in how it's like you cast him opposite basically James Bond.
Yes.
Almost and to point out like how different it is from James Bond, but he's still like Alec Baldwin's like a smart, kind of handsome man who's not necessarily action oriented. He's like, I'm just an analyst.
Yeah.
Which that's always been sort of the Jack Ryan characters. Like, I'm just an analyst.
Yeah, I'm not here for this.
And then I never saw Shadow Recruit, so I don't know anything about that. I heard it was okay, but then yeah, you got your Harrison Ford, which is probably he's definitely like the right version for like the later Jack Ryan things, but they keep trying to make like the lead up to Jack Ryan, so they keep rebooting it. Like if they ever got to Dead of Honor, like he would have been like the perfect Jack Ryan.
Right. Yeah, the one who becomes president.
Yeah.
that would be that Jack
Ryan. But yeah, I don't think Shadow Recruit was based on anything. I think that was just original. And you got Sum of All Fears.
Yeah.
Which Ben Affleck was a good Jack Ryan because Ben Affleck's a smart guy, but he's not necessarily like the best Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Like I think like even in the commentary on that, like Tom Clancy like really thought Ben Affleck was like a really smart guy. Not necessarily he didn't really care for his politics or anything, but it's like for an actor, he's a really smart guy.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the best thing about Sum of All Fears was the commentary with Tom Clancy.
Yeah.
Basically saying it's like you Hollywood liberals, you that's bullshit. That doesn't happen that way. Don't work this way, and then explain why things don't work that way. It was just kind of sitting there like, oh, well, I think you're wrong on that, Tom. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not wrong on that. Did they ever say how Tom Clancy died?
Wasn't it just a heart attack or something? I
don't know because I never heard.
Yeah, it was just kind of a sudden thing.
Like in his mid-60s.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still undisclosed.
Oh, okay.
He's a chain smoker, so.
Yeah.
That and being overweight will get you. Trust me, I know. Well, I don't smoke, but that's one of the reasons.
So yeah, now we have the new Amazon series with John Krasinski as I think that's how you say his name, right?
I think so.
As Jack Ryan, and he's a good Jack Ryan because he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He does that very well, and he's also very how would you say? He's not like vibrant or anything. He's just kind of he's just kind of like a dude.
Yeah.
But this, they definitely make him. He's less like I'm just an analyst, and now he's basically just an action star in this.
Yeah.
Which is not wrong because they recast his backstory. So I believe like in the original Jack Ryan stuff, he was in the Marine Corps and he got in a helicopter accident and like basically his military career is over, and then he became went to college and became an analyst and all that stuff.
Yeah, he was supposed to be paralyzed, but he wasn't. But that's why he's not really like an action guy.
Yeah.
And then this, it was a little different.
So here he is a veteran of the Afghan War. He is in a helicopter accident. You're not there yet, so I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, he saw combat.
Oh yeah.
He saw combat. So like the other previous versions of Jack Ryan like never saw combat. It was a training accident or whatever. So this one he's seen combat. So now he has PTSD and stuff like that, and he has they have him be a rower. And I saw some funny trivia where it's like he rowing every morning for somebody who has a tremendous back injury. It's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, because like a bunch of his vertebrae are fused.
Yeah.
Hammer away at those.
But I think the show's pretty decent. I don't know, it's kind of because it's all original story, but it doesn't necessarily get as didactic as other. Definitely not the novels, and maybe all the or maybe all the movies never really got that didactic either. They don't just sit there and explain technology to the audience.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, everything's pretty low key. I did like. I don't necessarily think like the main storyline, like there's not. I was like stuff with Tom Clancy is like here's like something clever, like either the bad guy does something clever or somebody does something clever. It's like here the clever thing I like is that the bad guy always sets up something that they have to react to, but that's never like the thing. Like it's just a distraction, and like they do a good job of doing that. It's like because that seems like if you have to be a terrorist, that you don't just do the direct thing. If you actually want to have to like subvert an entire police force and military organizations, all that stuff, you have to do things to distract people to do what you actually want to do, and hopefully, so they do a good job of that.
Yeah, and they actually give in this story, even though we're back to Middle Eastern terrorists, they give this guy a reason. It's like, oh, this is why he became a terrorist.
Yeah,
this is the horrible shit he went through, and he knows who's funding it, if not responsible for it.
Yeah, and weirdly, like a blue collar, pull yourself up by your bootstraps terrorist.
Yeah, kind of a.
Because he's not just like some Saudi prince who got money from his mom and dad and went to go fund terrorism. He is an immigrant to France, went through college, got like a business degree and also I think like a computer science degree.
Yeah.
Because that's like one of the things with his whole thing that makes about him is like he's trying to like disrupt the banking industry through like new online banking and other various things. And then because of his background, nobody would hire him. And then like trying to save his brother, he ends up going to jail. Yeah. And that's basically where he gets radicalized.
Yeah.
And so now he uses his knowledge to basically fund terrorism.
Yeah, so that's they actually give the the guy a history, and they also made Jack Ryan a financial analyst instead of a historian.
Yes,
which because we have the rich dad that like you should be in finance, and he no, fuck that, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but that has like a weirdly evil turn.
It's like, does it?
Yeah, well, no, I mean not like actual evil. It's like he like turns him down and is like, Jack, you're just gonna waste your whole life trying to save the world.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm literally saving the world.
Fuck the world. Well, doesn't he tell him he does something stupid like he's a logistics specialist for the CDC or for the
state? What do they call it? State.
Yeah, Coast Guard or something.
Oh yeah.
Or no, it's something. Anyway, it sounds like something bland. He doesn't know he works for the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think it's just logistics for the State Department. That's what it is.
And then of course his love interest is that guy's daughter, who was actually in the books she was
Is she British in the?
I think so, yeah.
Here it's she's American, played by an Australian actress. So there's that.
Never heard of the actress before.
Yes, she's been in some things. I couldn't point them out, but yeah, I've seen her before.
I like the James Greer guy. They've made him a complicated person.
Yeah,
This one.
that's Bunk from The Wire.
Yeah, I knew he was from The Wire. I just couldn't remember. But I knew I recognized him. But yeah, they made him a complex character.
Yeah, because they make him. He's converted to Islam for his wife, and now they're estranged. And he seems to be. And he got kicked out of his last job, so basically he's like on the outs. So like this job he has now, being like Jack Ryan's boss, is supposed to be a punishment.
Yeah.
But then he goes out and kills lots of people.
Yeah. And they're still kind of treating him like he's a fuck up. He's like, wait a minute, I just like stopped all this shit. He's like, we still don't have any faith in you.
There's like a sea story with a guy who's a drone pilot. That doesn't really ever go anywhere, but I guess it kind of has an interesting wrap up.
The one where he fucks the guy's wife and he beats the shit out of him.
Yep.
And that guy, the guy who plays the guy's husband or the wife's husband, I've seen that guy in like all kinds of things.
Yeah, he was in Oz.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think he was in one of the Alien movies too, but I recognized him. It's like, oh, this must be going somewhere, and I don't get that. I know they say those drone guys get weird, but
Well, yeah, there's been like 2 movies about weird drone guys. This doesn't necessarily like do anything different.
yeah, it's
And it barely has any leverage over the main story.
yeah. I
Other
haven't
than-
seen anything else, but yeah.
There's a part where in finding people, he fires a missile at a dude, and then like the main bad guy's wife is trying to run away from him, and like how she ends up getting away, at least at that time, is that dude fires a missile at some other guy.
Oh, okay.
And then that's pretty much, and then he gets mad, and then he goes overseas, because he finds out like one of the guys he killed was like they got bad intel from the Italians, and that guy wasn't actually a terrorist.
Oh, okay.
So he goes, he takes leave or just leaves the military. I don't know. Actually goes there. I think they're in Azerbaijan.
All right.
I want to say that's where this takes place in the Middle East. And he goes and finds the dad of the guy he killed, and he just brings a bag of money with his winnings from the casino. And he's there, and like they don't like speak each other's language, and he's trying to tell him that like I killed your son, and like the guy doesn't really understand. He just invites him to his house for tea. And then he starts like handing money to him. The guy's like, no. And then like a kid comes in, and then like the kid comes back and he has a cart of eggs. It's like, yeah, I'll buy all your eggs. And he just like throws all the money at him, takes the eggs, and that's the end of the story. And I think it's like around episode 6, and they never come back to that dude. So I also like there's like this special forces guys that they keep meeting up with. And he keeps having like a different country singer's name every time they meet him.
Oh yeah, guy's Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
Something. Yeah.
that guy's pretty good.
I think that's supposed to be what was the special forces guy? That was because.
So like Willem Dafoe's character in Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah. No, it's more of the guy in Sum of All Fears that was played by that good actor. What's that guy's name? He's on that TV show now. Liev Schreiber.
Okay.
He played. He's got some special forces guy. I think that's who that's supposed to be, but they don't ever really say.
Yeah.
I like that. That's the stuff they did in France.
Yeah.
I looked it up. They actually filmed that there. I was like, whoa, shit.
Huh. Okay.
Deep. Or maybe it was. I don't know. But yeah, like those French ghettos they have, where it's like all the people from the Middle East basically live in this. That's like that was actually filmed there.
Huh.
I don't know if it was the close-up stuff with the actors or just the wide scenes, but I remember it was like, oh, that's crazy. That's like that's more dangerous than Detroit, and they're filming. Way more dangerous than Detroit. A lot of unsolved murders in that part of Paris.
But yeah, I think the show's pretty good. I wouldn't say necessarily it's like on the level of early Tom Clancy stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It just has to be a good show.
Yeah, well, he's not writing it, and it doesn't have. There was like Clancy stuff baked in that there's stuff that made it really good. Like the most Clancy movie was Hunt for Red October.
Yeah,
that was like that pretty much followed the book as closely as it could without being boring. It explained some things like this is how a submarine kind of works, and of course none of the torpedoes and stuff ever worked that well, but it was very, very much in that vein. And then now, he's dead, and they're just hiding the name, but they're doing a good job.
The weirdest thing I find about the show is actually the main credit sequence, which seems like a child got into Adobe Premiere and just made a credit sequence.
Weird. I noticed that myself. Very odd looking.
I mean, it's very low key, but it just looks amateurish.
Yeah, it looks like video game, like second tier video game kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like my brother-in-law did this. I have a guy who needs work. And my brother-in-law.
Well, I need to save some money because it looks like an expensive show.
Yeah.
But apparently, apparently they greenlit a second season, so that'll be.
Yeah, Dumi Rapace is going to be in it.
Oh, okay, that'll be cool.
German intelligence agent. Well, a lot of this is set in Europe. It has a very global feel to it.
Yeah, but I mean that's what those books are. It's usually Jack Ryan like in a CIA office trying to help detect things that are going on globally.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I did like the thing how they were using the money cards. They were smurfing all the transfers to get all his money.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's real. I've read a shit like that. I mean, not that particular medium, but I know that there's people that just engage in really small transactions, but they do them thousands at a time, so it's a way to move illegal money around.
Yeah, that's it was interesting when he I didn't know, but I don't know if it's true, but he was saying like, now this guy just moved like this guy has $26 million. Like 9/11 only cost $11 million. It's like, oh, huh?
I think it was 500,000.
Oh, okay. I thought
it wasn't very expensive. I know that, but see, you're not leasing the planes or anything. Gotta get the guys in the seats, and that's it.
And then, oh yeah, I didn't. Well, one of the things I didn't like is there's in the early part where they're trying to build up like how bad the bad guy is. They're like, no, this guy's different. In the end, it's like, no, he's not different.
Psycho.
I mean, he's your blue collar terrorist, but other than that, he's not. His reasoning for doing everything is not new, and his methods, while clever, are not new.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to do it. The next terrorist they need to do a show about are the American terrorists. Right here in America. But everyone would be like, oh, that's anti-Trump. Sadly, that's exactly what they would say, though. They're talking about a war against patriots.
I like that John Krasinski has this kind of weird middle ground that he meets. Because he was in that 13 Hours movie, the Benghazi movie.
Okay.
But also he's like a super liberal too, and he's friends with Matt Damon. But also he directed that horror movie. He has a weird milieu about him where I think, and also he has this weird, this weird following of people who've, on their 8th viewing of the entire season of The Office. Like some people just have Netflix subscriptions just to watch The Office, and the weird memeing of The Office has occurred 10 years after that show's been done.
Right.
So yeah, he's got a built-in following and a weird dissection think
Yeah.
interesting for him.
He seems like an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know exactly who he was at first, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute.
It's Jim from The American Office.
Yeah. He's married to someone famous too, something Blump.
I don't know.
Somebody, movie about the people that can't make noise. Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quiet Place.
Yeah.
And really, I'd say she's from Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, Edge of Tomorrow.
I mean, she's in a lot of things, but I think she kind of like stood out in that movie. Even though she wasn't the star of that movie, she really stood out.
Yeah, well, she did a good job. And the fact that I found out she did like 80% of that movie while she was pregnant, it's like it's fucking crazy.
I think they're working on a sequel to that movie, even though I don't think it was financially successful. Or maybe
A lot of people talk about that movie though.
Yeah, I think eventually, like over time, it's kind of crawled up to break even.
Yeah.
Even despite having like 3 name changes.
Should have gone with All You Need Is Kill. I still think that.
Yeah.
The original. But it made more sense. Yeah, some people say this is the Tom Cruise I love right here. This Tom Cruise is the Tom Cruise that just the nuts character. Like, wait, that's every Tom Cruise character. So
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I was remembering. I saw a bunch of mediocre movies. Like I saw Baywatch, and I saw the Jack Reacher Never Back Down, which was the second Jack Reacher movie, which I heard wasn't good, and it wasn't.
It met your expectations.
Yeah.
Not subvert your expectations.
All around very bad.
I mean, I just like the first one a lot because they had Werner Herzog in it.
Yeah. Well, I thought like
Fucking cool.
there was a lot of clever fight scenes in that movie that were like, unconventional, like fighting in a narrow hallway, and like how a bat isn't like necessarily the greatest way. Like a lot of shit like that. A lot of things with his character where, he's basically just a dude that shows up with like, in jeans and a t-shirt, and then like, MacGyver's his way through things.
Doesn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Care about money.
In this, they try to do like more character stuff where they try to give him like an estranged daughter. He's like trying to have a relationship with this JAG officer, and then she gets like framed for some shit. The bad guys are not interesting at all. It's just some corrupt greed. Yeah, they're like smuggling. They're like fucking smuggling heroin and AT-4 rockets through the military.
That's why Werner Herzog was interesting. Bad guy. Well, you don't know, but he's scary and weird and very evil.
Would you bite off your own fingers to save your life? Just kill me, dude. Okay. But yeah, it was a different director, so Christopher McQuarrie was doing the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah. He was busy directing the best action movie ever made.
So what were you transitioning to before I...
Oh, Army of Shadows.
Oh, okay.
Our movie for this week.
Now, I hope you have a lot to say about this movie. Because I watched this in like a near... Well, I was last night... Huh?
In a near drunken stupor?
Well, no, it's like, it's like midnight on Friday. I was like, oh fuck, I'm supposed to watch that movie. And I was like laying down and watching it on my tablet and then basically falling asleep to a movie to which I don't understand French, and my eyes are half closed and I can't read the subtitles. So I hit play in front of this movie. I'm not sure I really experienced it.
Well, this was a Army of Shadows was a
69.
1969 French film about the French resistance to the Nazi occupation, World War II, and it's a very French movie and a very 70s looking film too. Kind of has that whole patina of, you know how we what movies were we watching?
Well,
Yeah.
the other guy, we've watched one of this guy's movies before. We watched La Samurai,
That's right.
which he directed.
Okay.
I mean, I like that movie more than this one, but that one's a bit more like, it's still like a quiet kind of shadowy movie. That movie also has like more style to it than this movie did, but that's not. I wouldn't say that's a downside. It's just a comparison.
Yeah, this movie's more of a. I like this movie because, even though I'd like to say, I know a lot of it's in French, and it's subtitled, but a lot of the acting in this movie is just the main character, Philippe. There's a lot of the ways he just looks at people and the way he moves, the way he says things. I mean, it's all subtitled, but you can still. There's a lot of sarcasm, a lot of cruelty. There's a lot of flippancy in the way he said, because they're talking about serious stuff. Like the first part of it, the movie opens. He's in a car or in a van, handcuffed. He's being taken to an internment camp because he was arrested by the French, the puppet, the Vichy government.
Yeah.
The Nazis were occupying France. He was arrested on suspicion of being a resistance fighter, but they found him. They didn't find enough evidence, but they sent him to an internment camp anyway, because World War II, and a lot of camping in World War II, and not the fun kind. And so he meets all these people at this camp, and like there's a lot of political people. It seemed like people that were probably more a reflection of the political types of the 1960s in France than the 1940s. But because there's like three guys who were in there basically because they said bad stuff about the marshal or whoever the guy was running the Vichy government in France, and then there was one guy who was a communist, and he works at the power plant for the camp, and this guy kind of cons him into believing it's like, oh yeah, I laid cable too, and I was I could help. We need to work together to figure out how to escape.
There was something he said like, yeah, I'm an electrical engineer, or like you're an electrical engineer like me, but he's like actually a civil engineer.
Yeah, there's something. Well, he just wants the kid to help him. The power so he can escape, but then he just he gets taken away for some reason, and he's transformed.
Isn't it him and the kid, or is it some other person?
No, because he tells the guys in the camp.
Oh wait, never mind. I'm thinking somebody dies in the camp. I'm like confusing a bunch of people.
No, the guy that died in the camp was the young kid's. I think it was his lover or his friend. I don't know. It's vague. But it's like after that guy dies, this kid goes to Philippe, and he's like, "Yeah, we should escape." And Philippe's like, "Yeah, and you can help me because you run the power plant here." And but then they take him to France to be questioned by the German police about his resistance activities, and so he just gets taken away, and he tells the other three guys in the room they're staying in, it's like, well, tell him I'm leaving. It didn't work out. Essentially, it was something like that. So this kid just left hanging by this guy, because not through his actions, but because he gets taken away. And then he goes to the Gestapo headquarters in Paris, and they like wait for hours, and finally him and the guy through like eye contact and asking simple questions like where's the nearest store or whatever, he stabs a guard through the neck up into his brain. He like takes the guard's knife and just stabs up through the bottom of his mouth, or from the bottom of his neck up through the top of his head, and manages to escape. And the other guy gets shot to death. So because
all right, we don't see it, but we assume.
Well, he told him to run that direction basically to misdirect the guards so that he could later escape. Because there's always stuff like that with him where it's like, yeah, we can work together, but it's always going to work to my advantage. That kind of character. It's not clearly spelled out, but that's what I get out of it.
Yeah. Well, especially at the end.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see, it's a pattern that runs through the whole movie, which is why I like this. And it's a grim movie. I mean, it's
Yeah, I was reading some stuff where it said like people didn't necessarily like it because it's not like a glamorization of resistance during the night. No, it's not.
these people killed anyone they thought betrayed them or could betray them. It didn't matter if they even did, because then they strangle a guy to death by putting a towel around his neck and twisting it with a spoon. People seem to die pretty easy in this movie, though. They could have played that out for another 5 minutes. The guys that are killing him, like one of them's crying, one of them, as you would, because that's like to strangle someone to death takes a long time and it's awful. And then, but Philippe's just kind of like, the job is done. Roll him up on this carpet and let's go. And then we meet people in a bar. I mean, he's working within this cell of the Free French, where he seems to be kind of the main operative and also the guy in charge.
Yeah.
And
or he seems to like do a majority of the planning.
Yeah. And so then he meets some guys in a bar, and I don't know if it jump cut because I know he's talking to some lady, and then the next thing you know, they're in a farmhouse, and they're on a submarine going.
Yeah.
It seemed to happen in very quick, and maybe the translation wasn't good because I think I missed a few points. It's like, oh, he's trying to give this old lady money for helping him, and then he's next thing you know, there's a submarine. It's like, what?
Well, I try to get like the thing out of it is that he's compromised, but he still wants to do good, but he can't. But he's compromised, so he's gonna have to leave the country.
Yeah.
But then he gets to London, where he gets a medal from Charles de Gaulle.
Yeah, it seems something like that.
And then like while London's being bombed, he like hops into a YMCA when people are dancing and decides like, there's a war going on. I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And then he parachutes back into France.
Yeah, suddenly parachutes into France. And hits the ground really fucking hard too. It's like, god damn, are they trying to break his legs? But then, because who's the woman? What's her name? Matilda?
Yes.
Yeah, she's like an operative too in the Free French or the Marquis or whatever they are. And then someone gets arrested.
Yeah, there's that one guy like he gets off the train and he helps that woman out so that it doesn't look in his bag because he has some
Area's secret radio.
Yeah.
Which the French police find and look at, and they're like, okay. It's like, wait a minute. I thought no one was supposed to see that, but maybe
well,
don't really care.
Yeah, well, he has like 2 of them in his suitcase, so maybe the one he had was like, oh, that's cool, and then, but the other one was like special somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, some things are.
Or it was just planned. It's like, I just got to get past the German police, and then when I get to the French police, it's cool.
Yeah, we know about the French work ethic. We're cool. They don't want to write a report. And plus, the people that are occupying their country are giving them orders, so they're probably. I don't know, because it seemed to like build tension when he was getting past the Germans by grabbing that woman's kid and like, I'll carry him, and walk through the Germans, and then the French like immediately stop him, like, what's in the case? See this radio? It looks really elaborate. Very good. Kind of like I don't know what the point of that double scene was, but it was funny. I found it humorous.
Yeah.
And then anyway, some people get detained, and a bomb blows up. What goes wrong exactly? I know the guy smuggling the radio and the older guy get pretty badly fucked up with a bomb going off. And because remember, they try to use the forged papers to go get him out of the prison with an ambulance, and the doctors.
Yeah.
No, they can't. There's no way this old man can go. And then guy's sitting there looking at a cyanide pill. And then that's just cut scene. It's like, well, they're dead. And then the woman, Matilda, sees that Philippe's picture is on a Gestapo, 10 Most Wanted board. And So when they leave, she tries to get him to go back to London, and he doesn't want to go because he wants to run the resistance. And then oh, what happens to that?
Is that when he gets captured?
Yeah, another guy gets captured, and then they play that almost weird game like they did in Escape from L.A. Like, if you can run from one side to other fast enough, we won't shoot you. And that's the SS doing that.
Which he should have got shot. They have a fucking machine gun set up, and the hallway's like 10 feet wide.
Yeah, somebody throws in a smoke bomb, and all of a sudden he's immune to bullets. Some of the framing and scenes in this movie were strange, and they seem to jump around real fast. But yeah, so then he escapes after his.
Would you say Matilda orchestrated this escape?
Yes, Matilda orchestrated this escape, and then he's hiding out in the country somewhere. And then Matilda gets arrested, and he's told about it by one of the other guys he was working with, and supposedly she was tortured, and also they were gonna kill her son or daughter?
Her daughter, like they were using her daughter as leverage.
Yeah, and so she's gonna reveal everyone's name, or she did. I'm not sure which, but anyway, Philippe just orders her killed. And then the other guy says he won't do it. He won't do it, and then they're talking amongst themselves because the one guy he orders to do it won't do it, and the other guy says she won't kill herself. We got to do this. And basically, the movie ends. They drive up in a car and they just shoot this woman through the chest and drive away. And then we have these sad after credit scenes where it talks about how all these guys some of them were hung, some of them were shot to death, and it said one of them was killed by an axe by the Nazis.
Yep.
Like, tell me more. Yeah, so that's how the movie ends, but it's a very tonally dark movie with some kind of it's just kind of weird. But also, this was a movie that was very controversial when it came out.
Oh yeah, this was not well liked in France and was unknown in America.
Yeah, well, it's because what was it? We wouldn't release movies that the French government said they didn't like, because there was some kind of revolt going on in France because de Gaulle was still president, and in '68, and there was some kind of they had really huge riots in France, which seemed to happen a lot more than what you think. And I know de Gaulle fled the country, and they thought there was going to be a coup, and then he came back and pretty much he stepped down or whatever. But because this movie had that scene with de Gaulle in it, everyone just shit on it in France. They're like, fuck de Gaulle, fuck him. We hate him now. We're mad at him. I'm not sure what was going on. It was one of those things they have over there where everyone's like, no, really, we're communists. Fuck this shit. And then they forget about 20 years, and then they come back and do it again. It's kind of the French. Well, the French like to destroy their government every 30 years.
Yeah. No, more than that.
20 years then.
I think they've reformed their government over 20 times in the past 30 years.
Yeah, it's always a different republic coming up. But I don't know much about that, and I didn't actually research it for this. I just know for that reason this movie was not popular in France and was not released in America till the 2000s maybe.
Yeah, it was 40 years after.
Yeah, okay. And then I was watching one of the extras on Filmstruck about how they had to restore this film because it was basically stored in reels of film that were not cared for, and so that a lot of the scenes, the film was just decayed, and it wasn't, the film stock was in poor shape.
Yeah, it was it was a red hue to the whole film or something like that.
Because it's like you stored it in a wet basement for something. So that was an interesting little side note. Don't say anything nice about de Gaulle when the trade unionists are on strike, or your movie will fail. Remember that, American directors. So, that was the big hit against this movie. Was really, it had more to do with politics than the quality of the film, because the film itself I liked.
Yeah.
I enjoy it for a foreign language film. Again, I know I like them better with subtitles and maybe a better. This kind of had a wonky soundtrack too. That's what put it in the 70s for me. It's like that's kind of a 70s sounding, but it also had that whole look too.
But also, like, they didn't, like, I don't know, they didn't necessarily explain all the time about, like, the direness of the situation, but also they didn't have to because of World War II and they're being occupied by Nazis.
Well, you want to do some rough reading. Read about the Free French and the Marquis and all these groups. They would kill people's children if they thought they were going to betray them. If they thought these people had betrayed them, they just murder their whole families. Like this kind of pre-murder or this maybe post-murder, because we know they won't kill themselves. That was real. That shit really happened. Because not because the French are psychotic, but because the Germans were so ruthless. It's like your family dies or my family dies. If I have to make that choice is already made. So, yeah, but the stuff in this movie, I'd never really seen that addressed. Because, like you said, this doesn't glorify any of this. People are all miserable. They're doing awful things for, just principles as much as anything. Because when this was going on, it doesn't. World War II is always viewed in a weird hindsight. It's like, why were they so crazy? The Americans were just going to come and liberate them. That's what we think happened in World War II. Never mind the 30 million Russians that died. But, this was a cool movie for that fact alone. That's what I liked about it.
I'm not sure. Like, I've seen any other movies of like the French Resistance.
No.
Usually in video games that have World War II, where you go on some sneaking mission, there's always like some lady from the French Resistance that helps you out.
Some sexy lady.
Yeah.
Shotgun.
With the sultry voice. She's like the chick from Jack Ryan, the captain or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I've been married 4 times, no more. You should call her. She wants to fuck.
Yep. The French woman we all want to meet. The American wants to meet. So yeah, this was a good overview of that period of history, and a nice moody movie.
Yeah.
I like the moodiness of it because that's the kind of shit I like. But that was Army of Shadows. Check it out. It's not Army of Darkness.
It's a sequel. It's a prequel, though.
Works.
Well, actually, I guess Army of Darkness would take place before this.
Yeah. Two movies that have nothing to do with each other.
I wonder when they were calling it Army of Darkness if they knew about this movie. Because it wouldn't really have existed, at least not in any kind of release here. But
No, I doubt anyone was thinking about this movie.
No.
Was involved in Army of Darkness.
Oh, we can't call it Army of Shadows because somebody always owns that name.
French.
I don't know. What do you think's a cooler name, Army of Shadows or Army of Darkness?
Army of Darkness is a cool name for what that movie is. Army of Shadows is a cool name for the French Resistance.
And it's based on some book, some like autobiography, but I don't know much about it.
It's based on a real. Philippe is based on a real Resistance character, and I went to look it up, but everything's in French, so it's like, well, I'm confused, and no translate this page button.
Yeah, well, what I heard was that the guy who wrote the book, some of the instances in this movie are based on the things he did, but a lot of it's fictionalized versions of like other people's like stories that happened during the war.
Yeah,
so
that's probably true. Yeah, Army of Shadows, check it out. Available on Blu-ray or just wherever.
Get a Criterion collection. Spend $25 on it. That's usually what those ones cost, right? I don't know.
Some of them. I
can't remember. When I bought all those 3 Blu-rays for our 80s stuff, it's like $22 a piece or something.
Yeah.
Which is not too bad, but some of that stuff can get ridiculous. But
Yeah, I don't know. I always the only Criterion one I wanted recently was they did a Stalker Blu-ray with new stuff.
yeah,
But I never bought it because busy,
yeah.
too busy for avant-garde foreign film. And that's another thing I liked about this movie too. It wasn't too like over. There was nothing avant-garde or weird about this.
It was
just,
relatively straightforward.
Yeah, it was very straightforward, which I enjoyed. Because I'm an American and I like thinking in straight lines, I could follow this pretty.
I read some trivia that the movie opens with like Nazis marching in Paris,
Yes.
which I guess is to just signify that the Nazis have occupied France. So I guess in original cuts of that movie, that was at the end of the movie, not the beginning, which would be weird.
Yeah, that actually would be a very.
That'd be like German victory.
Oh, well, they won. Yeah.
But I guess
Life is all a joke, a cruel joke. Can't do a French accent. Where the fuck?
there's something where the director was afraid that just any random French people wouldn't be able to march like Germans, because either to like as like some sort of like opposition to and Germans in general or Nazis in general, or because like there would be something or German discipline or something like that. Anyways, he got a bunch of dancers to march like Germans. So.
They need a bunch of Teutonic people. Can't just do it with a regular French. Everyone will dance to their own drum. All right. Well, that's all I have for this week. Do you have any?
Nope.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Con. Goodbye, America.